Robert Halfon, it's almost 4 months since we've physically interviewed you, being in lockdown. Firstly, how have the last 4 months been for you?
Well, it has been a bit strange. I'm a people person. My job is a job, and normally I'm out and about doing school visits. We often seem to be at the same events, funny enough, with your Harlow, but schools, the hospital, doctors, surgeons, charities, fates, part of my life which I love, and being in Parliament, you're surrounded by colleagues. And I've been in lockdown because of being a shielded person, because of my walking disability and some medication. And so I've never imagined in my life that I would be shut in the house for, I think it's about 16, 17 weeks. My last event in Harlow was on the 19th of March.
So things like that, but consistency work, and indeed people will see you on the television nearly every day with your chair of your committee, that has helped you. You've been busier than ever?
It's blessing, actually, because of technology. It took a bit of while because I have big problems, like everyone, with Wi-Fi in my house. But I've been able to work very hard. I've been able to do the online Parliament. I've been able to do my committee. I've learnt about things I never even knew about. I'd never heard of Zoom before or Microsoft Teams. I knew about Skype and WhatsApp, and that was about it. And probably reflecting my ageing years. But that has enabled me to do my job. And so I get up every morning at between 5:30 to 6 o'clock. I do a round of exercises. I walk up and down my garden with one stick instead of two. A bit like Tom Moore, but really I'm an ant on the ear of a lion compared to him, because he's truly great. But it's kept me fit. I dress up smartly every day. I even pack a briefcase at night, put my laptop in it, which you can see here, and take it upstairs to the room where I work, and that has been to try and get routine. But I've been able to do a lot of work, campaign for constituents. We've managed to get over 30 odd million, 32 million I think it was, to Harlow from the government to help with businesses, with grants, help with the homeless, to help with all kinds of things that were needed to be done during the coronavirus. I mean, it has been the most difficult time for our country since the Second World War.
The consistency work and concerns about the consequences of COVID-19, has it been a mixture between individuals and businesses?
It's been everything. Everything. I mean, the first couple of days, in the run up to the 19th of March, I'd had a few emails, but suddenly it was a deluge of emails, telephone calls, online surgeries, and you just realised how awful the whole thing was. People had enormous health worries, financial anxieties, family stresses, all manner of problems in every walk of life, whether it is a beautician not being able to open her company, whether it is a wedding organisation, whether it is a resident who is sick, whether it is a business not knowing whether or not they were going to get support. And it is the biggest thing I've ever done as an MP. I mean, thousands and thousands of emails that have come through, thousands of messages. So it's long days. Even if I am at home, it has been long days, but it's my duty to do it. And we've got the money, the 30 odd million, as I mentioned, for grants for businesses, for grants for residents, hardship funds for the homeless, that money that's gone to Harlow Council to give out. So that has been welcome. And there's been lots of other things. I've been carrying on with my education committee, campaigning for an apprenticeship guarantee, campaigning for free school meals over the summer, money for employers so they can hire younger people, and all that, fortunately, some good things have happened despite this awful pandemic.
Okay, who's done a better job of handling the pandemic? Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister of our country, or Jacinda Ardern, the Prime Minister of New Zealand?
I think that the New Zealand Prime Minister is one of my favourite Prime Ministers in the world. I think she's a remarkable Prime Minister. It's a much smaller country in terms of numbers. They've done a pretty good job. We're a much more densely packed population. We've got 65, 70 million people in this country. So I think it's difficult to compare apples with pears because they're very two different things. But I wouldn't take that away from what she's done. But I also wouldn't take away from some of the good things the government have done either. You know, I mentioned the money that's come into Harlow. You know, billions and billions and billions of pounds have been spent on looking after employees who would otherwise have lost their jobs, giving grants to shops, to businesses, to companies across the board, money for schools. The government have had to take a role in almost every aspect of life. That is no easy thing to do, and of course mistakes are made, but it's also important to recognise the good as well.
But 201 people have died at Princess Alexandra Hospital, and you would hope that in the right time there will be a proper, robust inquiry, and where answers are needed, answers should be given. True? Absolutely,
and I called this way, but the Prime Minister announced that there would be an independent inquiry. I urged on Channel 4 that there would be an independent inquiry weeks and weeks ago. Not just about pointing fingers, but also to learn the lessons, because of course things have gone right, but things have gone wrong as well. We need to learn from those, because we need to find out exactly what happened, what the decision making was. I mean, for example, masks. We're now told to wear masks. I watched every day the scientific officers get up and said no, masks weren't necessary, and now they say that there are. So the science has changed over the weeks as people have learned more about it. But we need to make sure that we have an independent inquiry, absolutely, and I've always supported that. But you've also got to recognise that we're in national crisis, and it's very easy to be Captain Hand's hindsight. It's very easy to, I'm not saying that your Harlow is doing is not a completely objective, fair reporting, but it's very easy for people to say, if from their comfort of their armchairs, we would have done this differently, we knew this was going to happen, we knew X and Y was going to happen. I think the national inquiry will find that out, absolutely. I think there are lessons learned for education as well, need to be learned, but more importantly, so we avoid making the mistakes the second time round and you learn from it.
You mentioned education, and not only as a constituent MP, but the chair of Education Committee. Do you think there are a lot of young people in Harlow who are now have suffered due to COVID-19 with their education?
Well, education is my passion in politics, education and skills, and delighted that the 6th apprentice I've employed in my office, the first ever MP to do so, is now finished his apprenticeship only yesterday. He got his level 3, so I'm very proud of what he's achieved. He's actually going to be carried on employed. You've met him, Dan. So that's good news. But what I think that the lockdown has been disastrous, especially for left behind disadvantaged children. Every study from Bernardo's, we've had them before our committee, the Safeguarding Alliance in Harlow, not a charity, business-based business in Harlow. Every organisation that I have spoken to in committee have said that the effects on lockdown have been enormous on mental health, on safeguarding, whether the children have been exposed to online harms, county gangs. This is despite the efforts of the parents. Now, I thank all the teachers in Harlow, many of them who I've spoken to and have contacted schools on a regular basis. I thank them for keeping the schools open over this time for children of critical workers and vulnerable children. But we know that across the country, 85% of vulnerable children have not been going to school. And I think it's going to be very tough when the schools hopefully go back more fully in September.
Switching across to the NHS, and when there's a vote, in the early weeks in the vote, and a lot of people feel that you are not backing the NHS, or you're not giving the feel that the NHS is secure, and a vote like that, I know it's an amendment from Labour, do you feel that in some ways you're undermining people's confidence that the NHS is secure?
I think first, when you say a lot of people, it tends to be a lot of people of a certain political persuasion who try and weaponise the NHS to have a go at me, my opponents predominantly, because most fair-minded people actually see what's going on. The NHS is not for sale. The Labour Party have tried this for every year that I've been MP. And it's fine, and they do their graphics and they do their thing. And my vote goes up every time, and this time it was 14,500. So majority. So they might want to think, are these things actually believed by the public? Because we're getting our new hospital, that's going to be hundreds of millions of pounds. Thousands more doctors and nurses are coming across the country, and I voted for a 3-year significant NHS pay rise for workers in 2017, which is often not mentioned. 2017, 2018 rises between over 4.5% and 29%. I've supported the hospital in every way. I supported the GP surgeries. Look at the figures. Any fair-minded person, go on the website, look at how much was spent on the NHS in 2010, how much is being spent on the NHS now. That's all you need to do is type in on Google, don't believe me, and you will see what the figures are. There's a dramatic difference, and there is a long-term settlement for the NHS. There's an NHS 10-year plan from the government. I would not be here if it wasn't for the NHS. I spent my childhood in Great Ormond Street Hospital, going there after having operations, going there every week. Why on earth would I do anything that undermines the NHS? The Labour Party do these things to try and give the illusion that people don't support the NHS, but it just doesn't work. So let them carry on. Because most fair-minded people, actually all they need to do is look at fair-minded websites, not party political ones, and they will see actually what the money is being spent on the NHS and how I've supported it.
Switching across to another subject, the office block conversions, the permitted developments. Do you fear that with the proposals that Harlow, it could be open season for office block conversions in Harlow, and unlike any other place in the whole of the country, open season for permitted events in Harlow?
Let me say two things about this. The first thing is we do need more houses, and we need affordable houses for residents, and we're going to have to make some tough decisions about where those houses and apartments are going to be built. People are crying out for them. People come to my surgery every week, whether it's on Zoom now or in needing houses for their children and their grandchildren. So we've got to get that out on the table. We do. So when the permitted development rights law came through in 2013, no one opposed it. Your Harlow featured a law that came through a couple of days ago in Parliament. The Labour Party could have called a vote on it. They didn't oppose it. So again, there's a lot of things being talked about here to try and create difficulties because I'm the MP, and obviously people oppose my political views. That's fine, it's their right to do so. What my job is to do is to make sure that when we have those kind of houses, that the issue is about quality and where they are. I have no problem with permitted development rights, providing it's quality homes, that they are built in the right place, and that there is not social cleansing from London councils sending all their most vulnerable residents to Harlow because they want to wash the hands of looking after those residents. I want Harlow homes for Harlow people. Now, Harlow Council have introduced this Section 4 now, which stops a lot of it. They should have done that from the beginning, and they should have been much tougher, in my view, in terms of the London councils. It's all right now saying, it's good that they're not going to send them anymore, but it's a bit like shutting the door after the horse has bolted. But I accept I have to do my bit in Parliament. Absolutely. In fact, I think your Harlow published it in the last day or so. A very detailed letter that I worked with a planning consultant who very kindly gave me all her advice, a lady called Rebecca who lives in Harlow, the constituency, and step by step about ideas. I think there should be an independent adjudicator, and what I mean by that is I understand that the government want these houses built and they're worried about the bureaucracy of the planning process, but if you had an independent adjudicator that could make a quick decision, that could say yes, this is quality, yes, this is in the right place, or no, it's not quality, no, it's not in the right place, and say no, this is not suitable, I think that would solve a lot of the problems. But it is a difficulty, but that shouldn't negate the fact we need more housing, that a lot of beautiful homes are being built across the town, really beautiful homes, that millions of pounds from the government is coming in. We have access up to 25 million, something I lobbied for day and night with the government, for the regeneration of Harlow, up to 25 million. There's another High Street Fund, also multi-million pound, that we've got access to. So millions of pounds are coming into Harlow. New road junction. Where is that money coming from? The government. I lobbied for that the first day I got in 2010, from day one. It hadn't happened before. The new hospital, Public Health England, the wonderful campus we've got in New London Road, the enterprise zone, millions of pounds. So wonderful things are happening, and people tend to focus on the bad things, which we need to sort out, but there's a lot of good as well, and we should recognise that.
A couple more questions before we finish. I guess the people I've been most worried for in Harlow is those young men, I guess or women indeed as well, between the age of 16 and 24, and what future is for them with I guess concerns over lack of prospects, things like apprenticeships. Are you fearing we could have a lost generation here in Harlow?
I really worry about that, and again, my first ever speech was about apprenticeships, because the reason why I've championed apprenticeships, because before I was an MP I went to a meeting with Catch 22, it's a charity for young people, in Shield House, by the petrol station just opposite the old GSK building, and these young kids wanted to do apprenticeships and get skills, and it planted it in my mind. I left that meeting, and it was either 2008, 2009, a long time ago now, thinking, oh, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to champion apprenticeships because I know this is the best ladder. So we have to do that. Now, there are some good things happening. The government is giving literally every business in the country thousands of pounds if they hire young people, thousands of pounds if they give them a traineeship, thousands of pounds if they give them an apprenticeship. This is all different pots of money. In Harlow, we are lucky because we now have one of the best colleges in England, Harlow College, multi-million-pound advanced manufacturing centre. So people always look at things go wrong. Why not look at the good things? That is one of the best in the country. If not, we are the skills capital now, potentially, of the East of England. Because that advanced manufacturing centre, the work going on in Harlow College, the work going on in the University Technical School, the BMAT STEM Academy, is giving young people the skills that they need so that they can work when Public Health England is built, in the new hospital, in the Public Health England, in the new enterprise zone. And so things are going to be very, very tough over the next 6 months to a year. I suspect your Harlow will be sending me questions saying, why am I voting for this or whatever, because there isn't going to be an unlimited pot of money, because we've spent hundreds of billions of pounds. And by the way, the important thing to remember is when we say government spends money, where does that money come from? It comes from the taxpayer. So every time we spend that money, it means there's less, each pot has to come from somewhere. And you can only do that by borrowing or by raising taxes. No one wants taxes to be raised. So, because obviously then they have less income to spend. So we've got to recognise that all these, sometimes you have to make tough choices. No one does it. No one makes a tough choice that is unpopular, because why would you do it? What vote do you win by making an unpopular choice about spending on public services or whatever it might be? What vote do you win? No vote. So, but sometimes you have to do it because you have to recognise that money is going to be tough over the next year. But even with that, hundreds of millions are coming into Harlow. If you add it all up, it's probably close to £1 billion the money is being spent to regenerate our town, to build an even better Harlow, to champion our skills and apprenticeships and education, to help with jobs, to protect our NHS. So I think that should be recognised.
So finally, do you have a message of hope as we slowly, hopefully, come out of COVID-19? Do you have a message of hope for the people of Harlow?
Well, first of all, to everyone in Harlow, thank you for what you have done over this time, and I wish you all well and safety. And those who have lost loved ones, it is a tragedy. And you mentioned the hospital earlier, the tragic deaths there had been. It's also worth remembering the hospital saved hundreds of lives. I think nearly 300 of people who had it and then were able to go home thanks to the work of the incredible staff at the hospital. We will get through this. I think we're coming down the mountain. I think if there's a second wave, it will be localised. Who knows? I may be wrong. We will get our economy back. We will be back. Children will be back in schools. Our life is going to change for a long time to come. I mean, you would have been much close to me doing an interview like this, even just a few weeks ago. So life is going to change, but this has happened all across the world, and we've just got to get through it together, be a strong community, I will do my best in Barnet to make sure government money and other things come into our town, and thank you to everyone for all they've done.
Robert Halfon.